Okay, well, hello everyone. I'm so glad to have you guys here in today's webinar for supporting your child and teens mental health. I am Victoria Valdez. I'm the owner of Tri-Synergy Counseling, and I'm also the clinical director. And I'm a licensed marriage family therapist. And so we're going to just kind of take off here. Whoops. Okay, so I do want to address the Q&A part, so we're going to save that to about the last 10 or 15 minutes of our presentation. But go ahead and feel free, if you're anything like me, I need to write the question down. Feel free to put the question in the chat box, and then when it's time for that time, I can go ahead and take a look. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to review what mental health wellness means. We're going to go over the top 5 diagnoses that are most common for kids and teens in the United States. We're going to cover the 5 factors that influence our children's mental health. And then we're going to provide strategies for each one of those 5 factors. So there's 10 plus strategies. You guys are going to get a lot of strategies. Each factor will have strategies that you guys can use to help support your child and your teen's mental health. And then I will talk a little bit about some emotional regulation demo, kind of walk you through some emotional regulation activities that you can do for yourself and that will be great for your kid or your teen. Okay, so Tri-Synergy Counseling, just a quick little information about us is that we're a counseling center that is located in Brentwood. We're private practice, and so we provide therapy for those that reside in the state of Tennessee, for children, teens, adults, parents, and families and couples. We also provide lens neurofeedback services, parenting services, wellness offering, which is what you're participating in. Part of our wellness offering is giving mental health information and webinars and different topics about wellness. And then we also conduct immigration evals. So if you need any services and you're in the state of Tennessee, you can reach out to us. A little bit more about me: when I'm not doing therapy, I am a mom of 3. I'm also a parent coach and a lens neurofeedback provider. And when I'm not doing the business stuff and the mom stuff, I really love going Latin dancing, writing poetry, and just really empowering others. So okay, we're going to jump right into the meat here, guys. So what is mental health? I feel like everyone has kind of their own eclectic, what we feel like it is for us. And I think it's great to have our own unique kind of, definition of what we feel mental health is for us, or mental health wellness, right? The World Health Organization defines it as the health is a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being. And I love this part right here. It's not just the absence of disease or infirmity. I love that so much because I feel like it's a well-rounded, which is what our mental wellness is. And the CDC talks about it's all of our emotional, psychological, and our social well-being. And all of that together, all of those systems together affects how we think, how we feel, how we act. And it also determines how we're going to handle stress, how we relate to others in our relationships, and how we make healthy choices. All of that is affected by our mental health and our mental wellness. So this is not an extensive, so if you Google, you guys might find even more, but these were the top 5 that are updated up to 2019. The stats really aren't all the way fully out yet for the rest of the years, but this is what we have. So the most common is for our children and teens is ADHD, anxiety disorders, depression, behavioral problems, the autism spectrum, and then eating disorders. And one thing, when I talk about the top common ones, one thing I like to mention that people probably think about this, but if you don't, it's something to consider. Even though these are the most common, think about all of the kiddos that don't get diagnosed, that nobody knew. Personally, I have ADHD, and I wasn't diagnosed until I was in my late 20s, almost 30. My children, I have 2 of my 3 children also have ADHD. But fortunately, we were able to catch it early. So intervention, right? So all of these things that don't get reported because we don't get diagnosed, right? Nobody knows that's happening with them. So again, this is from 2016 to 2019. And this was data collected from the CDC. We've got 1 in 5 children have a mental health disorder in any given year, especially during that time through 2016 to 2019. We know that about 6.1 million children have been diagnosed with ADHD, thinking about how many are unreported, right? Or don't have a diagnosis yet. And then we know that about 1.9 million children are struggling with depression. And then about 4.5 million are struggling with behavior issues. And we know that half of all mental health issues will occur before the age of 14. And 75% by the age of 24. So we know, one of the things I really specialize in is play-based therapy. And so I work with a lot of younger kids. And so when parents bring kids for maybe, oh, they're having some trouble at school, that's when we get to really dive in and kind of discover some of these things, that they're struggling with anxiety or depression or ADHD, and how to help them get that intervention so they have better outcomes. So yeah. Okay. I'm just gonna, all right. So here are the top factors. There are other factors, but I really wanted to focus on these. And you may know some of these, or you might be thinking, Victoria, yeah, I've heard about some of this, right? So we know that sleep affects nutrition, so what we're eating, right? Exercise, self-esteem, and parenting styles. And truly, guys, I'm kind of giving you guys an overview and a summary, because each one of these categories could have like a whole day retreat or workshop on all, like just one category of all the things and the ways that we can, build strategies and all that. So I'm really, it's just kind of an overview. So lack of sleep. We know about, and again, all of these data is from 16 to 2019, 40% of children suffer from sleep problems. And what happens when our children and our teens aren't getting enough sleep? You're going to see that increased impulsivity. You're going to see more hyperactivity. You're going to see some more crankiness, irritability. They're moody. They're going to have more negative feelings. And I like to use humor. And I think about like ourselves as adults. We wake up and we did not get enough sleep the night before. We got 6 hours. We're cranky in the morning, right? We're upset. We're not feeling negative. We're not like, yes, this is going to be a great day. We're pissed off that we're tired, right? And so imagine our own kiddos and our own teens, right? Who don't have the ability yet developmentally to regulate in the way that we can. So it's really tough for them. And you'll see that decrease of the attention span, that lack of concentration. I talked about that self-regulation. So a part of them that can regulate, you're going to see less. They're going to be more dysregulated because they're tired. And then, the decretion of positivity and feeling positive about things. Now, long-term lack of sleep, habitual lack of sleep, can lead to anxiety and depression and other emotional issues. But it's long term. It's not like, oh, my kid didn't get to sleep twice early this, or on time this week. And then we know that if they have already struggling with anxiety or depression or anything else, then lack of sleep isn't going to make it better. It's going to exacerbate it. So it's kind of like this nasty cycle, right? You're already dealing with it. You're making it worse, right? And we know for children and teens that it disrupts brain growth. Lack of sleep. And since I specialize working with ADHD, and I have the experience I have with it, if you have a kiddo who has ADHD and they're taking medication for their ADHD, you are counteracting the effectiveness of the medication if we're not helping them get the amount of sleep that they need. You'll find that the medication isn't working because they're too tired. So this is from the American Academy of Pediatrics. On average, a child that is around age 6 to 12 should get about 9 to 12 hours of sleep. And on average, the ages 13 to 18 should get about 8 to 10 hours of sleep. Now, it's on average because you have to know your kiddo. I've got 3, my teenager, since he was like 5 years old. I remember we'd experiment with nap, like sleep time. And I tell you what, that boy still today, 17, he needs a good 10 hours of sleep to function. He does not function well on less. And then my middle child, who's 10, 7, 8 hours at the crack of dawn, she is ready to rock and roll. So you got to kind of know your kid and how they feel, right? But this is on average what they should be sleeping to get that growth, development, and to reduce those effects that we were talking about. So your kid's having a hard time. Sleeping, Victoria, they won't sleep, they're restless, all these different challenges. One of the biggest things you can do is protect the sleep hygiene or the sleep routine. And so making it relaxing, doing mindfulness activities with them or meditations or putting fun, relaxing spa or oceans. My kids we have sound machines that have ocean sounds. They love that. Finding what they like. Utilizing essential oils, lavender, relaxation tea, CHAMI. I always mispronounce that one, but that relaxing tea, without low caffeine or zero caffeine. Um, Making it really relax. You don't want to do an activity and hype them up right before it's time for bed, right? And then limiting screen time. I know we've all heard this, but it really, really, really is true. That blue light, what happens is as your eyes, your retinas are looking at the blue light, it tells your body that it's still daytime because it's that false UV rays, but it's registering that it's still time to be awake. And so what happens is your body makes a natural production of melatonin. And melatonin is typically released about 3 hours before a natural bedtime, like around 10 or 11. It'll release 3 hours before that time at night naturally. But if you're looking at the blue light, your body's saying, no, it's still awake. I'm not going to release the melatonin. And so in effect, you're keeping that body staying awake and alert. And so it really is on average with your child. Like you have to find your child and meet them where they're at and kind of experiment. But like for my kiddos, 1 hour before bedtime, no screen times. Now, if I have a teenager, right, that's doing homework or whatnot, or and they really need it, those blue light glasses or the filters, really making sure that they're not getting that exposure. And then getting enough sunlight. I talked about how the UV rays of the blue light is getting into our eyes and confusing our brain, right? That we're still awake. It's supposed to be awake time. Well, if you're not getting enough vitamin D, enough sunlight, natural sunlight outside, then your body's also not being not triggered, but what's the word? Giving an alert to produce melatonin. Your body needs the sunlight so that your body can produce melatonin. So when you're not getting enough sunlight outside and the children aren't getting outside, you're counteracting that effect. And then, of course, exercise. If the kids can get enough exercise, then that's going to help them relax for bedtime. Now, I didn't EFT tapping, emotional freedom tapping. If you can reach out by email. I sent an email. I couldn't get the attachments for the presentation, guys, to get on Eventbrite, so I did send emails to you guys for attachments for today. For some handouts, but you can reach out to me through that email where I emailed you and ask for an EFT tapping script. And I'll talk about that a little bit later because it's like magic for most kids. You help them learn how to tap and it relaxes their body into sleep. I've been doing it with my children since they were really little. And their grandparents, family, and friends are like, "What'd you do? Some voodoo, Victoria?" They're out. And I'm like, the tapping. It relaxes them so much. So I'll tell you more about that later. Okay, nutrition. Let food be thy medicine, and thy medicine shall be thy food. I love that quote so much. Letting food be our medicine and then the medicine being the food. Because I just saw a documentary this weekend about twin studies and what we eat. We are what we eat, all of these things, right? The verdict is out. We know that what we're eating is affecting us, right? So what I want to touch on is some of the natural things that our bodies make and how the food that we eat is these are going to help those chemicals in our body produce, or it's going to reduce our body's ability to make these chemicals that are affecting our mental health. Serotonin. So serotonin is a neurotransmitter that helps regulate your sleep cycle. It regulates appetite and our mood. And it helps with managing pain. And so I'll talk to you a little bit more about these two brains, right? Our first brain and our second brain. Now the sciences of research is our gut. And we know that 95% of serotonin from all of our body is produced in our gut. And so And that's what's helping guide our digestion and our emotions and our feel good, right? And so when we're not eating foods that are helping produce more serotonin, then our serotonin count is low. I like to think of it as a gas tank, right? We want our serotonin to be at 100% as much as possible. But if we're destroying our gut's ability to make it, then we're going to have a poor appetite. We're going to feel unhappy. We know that serotonin can be linked, it's being correlated and linked to low serotonin to feelings of depression. And so we want to boost that. Here's some other facts about what serotonin does. It helps with mood, memory, and cognition. That's one I didn't just say. It also, if you have too much serotonin, you could have diarrhea from that. You can have muscle rigidity. You can have fever or seizures. And then if you don't have enough, there's that poor mood, poor appetite, poor ability to sleep. So how can we boost this stuff, right? So we know that when we eat a lot of sugar, refined sugars increases depressive feelings. Yes, I know some of you might be thinking, well, Victoria, what about, oh, I feel really good after I eat, or I did some emotional eating. So you get a spike. But overall, long term, it doesn't improve our mood. We get that crash, right? So sugar stabilizing mood. It reduce where we want to reduce systemic inflammation by reducing the amount of sugar that we eat. We want to drink less diet products because that reduces our body's ability to make the serotonin. We want to reduce refined carbs and sugars like white bread, pizza dough, pastas, pastries, all those things that taste good. It's not to get rid of them completely, but to definitely reduce the amount that we have them. Those sweets, those cereals. We want to reduce as much as possible trans fats, hydrogenated oils, and additives, preservatives. You can Google online. There are in Europe, I've lost track of how many counts in other countries, the number of amount of preservatives that have been totally banned from other countries that we're still using in the United States. And these other countries have made movements to cancel them because they know that it's affecting our wellness. So, and then a little bit more about our gut is that it contains 5 million neurons connected directly to our brain through the nerves in our nervous system. And another feel good chemical is dopamine. And we know that 50% dopamine is, synthesized in our gut, and that helps with digestion as well. So I needed to let somebody in. So if you just came into the room, please make sure your mic is on off, and that if you don't want to be seen because we are recording, to please close your video camera. So yes, dopamine, it makes us feel good, and it helps the passage of food. It helps us have a bowel movement. Things that we want to increase is we know we want to nourish our first brain and our second brain. We know that our brain is 60% fat, and it needs that healthy fat like avocados, walnuts, coconut oil, omega-3. Our second brain, the gut, we want to increase fiber, fermented foods like kefir, kimchi, yogurt, miso, kombucha, sauerkraut. We want to increase the amount of that to help boost the development of our biome and just kind of the serotonin, boosting that. And then we want to eat more complex carbs, kidney beans, navy beans, sweet potatoes, pinto beans, things like that. And specifically serotonin foods that will help boost and help our body make more serotonin is you got spices like turmeric, teas, eggs, chicken, turkey, fish, spinach, almonds, pumpkin, sunflower seeds, bananas. There's a lot of really tasty foods that will help our body produce more serotonin. And so this is how we're going to help our children and teens feel better, is by offering them healthier foods. Okay, so exercise. We know that less than 1/4 of children ages 6 to 17 in the United States are actually engaging in 60 minutes of physical activity every day. That's less, that's 24%, right? And we know how a lot of schools in the United States, they've done away with certain recreational activities and things like that. And so it's really becoming more of us to take responsibility in helping our kids get moving. What we know about exercise is that it reduces anxiety and depression symptoms and stress. We know that it improves mood, memory, cognitive functioning, processing speed, mental alertness. And remember, when I talked about the sleep section, it's going to help our kiddos and teens sleep better, and it's going to help ourselves, right? 30 to 60 minutes of exercise daily. Break it up, right? I do this with my kiddos. I was just gearing up. February is that heart challenge that they do at a lot of schools in the United States. And so we've got the jump ropes out ready. We jump rope in the morning. We're out by the bus stop. We do 10 minutes of jump roping together as a family. It's fun. Sometimes it's not so fun at 6:30 in the morning, but it gets us going, right? We'll come home and do some more jump roping, right? 10 more minutes. We'll go on the family walks after dinner, right? Having your kiddos participate in sports, the community sports, getting some Zumba videos, whatever, getting them moving, exercise, breaking it up so it's not so overwhelming or daunting. A lot of families, we don't have time, Victoria, right? We're working our 9 to 5s. We got to go pick up the kids. We got to get dinner on the table. I get it. But if we can break a commitment of even just 10 minutes and then increasing, you're going to see the difference, making it fun, like I said, doing it as a family, being a role model. We need to do all of these things that I'm giving you guys strategies. We have to role model it. We have to do it ourselves and commit for ourselves so that we can lead our kiddos in the way, right? Do fitness challenges, do fun. Let's see how many jump ropes or jumping jacks we can do today before we go and clear, or before bedtime, or an hour before bedtime, or, any of the things that we can get moving. I know weather can really suck if you're living in a place where it's really rainy or really cold. This year we got a membership. I think it was $30 at like a jump place for the family. And we go there and jump on school nights for 30, 40 minutes in these trampoline plays. And so much more affordable to get a membership, and so it makes it, okay, well, it's not too cold because we can go inside the building and jump, right? So think any way that you can do that. I was thinking of the YMCA before I talk about self-esteem. Back when we lived in San Antonio, we were part of the YMCA, and they had this like cool like family fitness challenge where they did like 8 weeks of classes for even my kiddo when it's a toddler at the time. We all were lifting and learning things and doing anesthetics. And so there's different programs that we can participate, right, to get ourselves moving. Okay, self-esteem. So self-esteem is, right, it's overall, it's a reflection of our individual self-worth, our beliefs about ourselves, and our emotional responses to those beliefs. The way that we feel about each other is also the way that we receive from other people. If we don't feel good about ourselves, maybe the people that we interact with, it's hard to receive their love, right? So we know that research says that low self-esteem is associated with psychological, physical, and social issues. We know that it influences the successful adolescent development, and we know especially transitioning into adulthood. So it has a negative, if you have we know that if you have a negative self-esteem, you're going to have, your kiddos are going to have a rougher time transitioning through developing and transitioning to adulthood. We know that there's an increased risk of depression and anxiety, suicide, and disordered eating when our self-esteem is really low with our kiddos and teens. We know that it also increases the risk of violent behavior, the risk to earlier sexual activities within girls, and then within all, male or female, the risk of substance use. So our kiddos are not feeling, if they're not feeling good about themselves, then you're going to see a lot of these type of behaviors. So I'm going to give you guys some strategies on ways that you can mitigate those or reduce the risk, things that we can do as parents. So teens and kids, adults, we all want to be seen, heard, feel supported, and accepted. Everybody wants that. Everybody wants to feel valued, like they're contributing to something, they're important. And the way that we can enhance that feeling in our kiddos and in our teens is allowing them to make decisions and for us to help model compromise. And the way that you can do that with your kiddos is, you know, we'll set up times and we'll talk about planning trips for the summer or planning a family trip or a day trip or what we're going to do this Saturday, and helping them come up with ideas of what we can do and making the decision within the boundaries and limitations, right? You know that movie Yes Day, if you haven't seen it, my kids are like, we need a yes day. And I'm like, okay, we can do a yes day within this budget, right? So definitely some limits and boundaries around, but helping them feel better about, wow, they got to make that decision. If you think about your child and your teen, we're telling them and guiding them on what to do. Then they're put in a school system for 8 hours and they're told when to sit down, when to stand up, be at your desk, eat at this time. You can only do these things. And so imagine how difficult it is for them to get opportunities to make their own decisions. So how we have to help them develop those opportunities, give them those opportunities so they can feel good, helping them learn how to compromise and be flexible. You want to model positive self-talk. If you talk bad about yourself and you have younger kids in your home, you're going to hear them say bad things about themselves too. And of course, their peer group and their friend group is also going to influence them, especially when they're in teenage age. But start with yourselves. I reframe myself. Sometimes I'll be like, oh, that was so dumb of me. And I will literally refrain as oops in front of my kids. I'll say, you know what? Let me try that again. I am not dumb. And I will say, sometimes I'll ask them, well, how could I say that differently? But I'll say instead, gosh, I'm going to work harder on making sure that I think more carefully before I make a decision so I have a good outcome. So modeling that positive self-talk, helping them reframe. So a strategy I teach my clients and I do with my own kids is that catching it and reframing it. I say, whip it, reverse it, remix it. How can you say that differently where you're not talking bad about yourself? Sometimes they're like, yeah, I can do that. And other times they're like, right? I don't want to do that. And I say, okay, you want to meet them where they're at. Avoid criticism that is attached to their personhood. So for example, instead of saying your room is filthy, you're just a lazy slob. Dang, instead of saying that, you could say, I would really like for you to keep your clothes in the laundry basket rather than all over your floor. Or it keeps up the maintenance of your room when you put your clothes in your laundry basket. We don't need to say all those things about they're being lazy or how many times or why aren't you normal? Why are you dirty all the time? That's not boosting their self-esteem, and they're internalizing that. And so we want to really work on our own critical inner voice and work on changing the way that we talk to our kiddos. Using I statements, I need, and teaching them I need to say I need. It would really help me, or I could use this, or I feel when you slam your door, teenagers, when you slam your door, it makes me feel nervous, or it makes me feel, or I feel whatever, right? Instead of attacking their personhood. Helping them discover their strengths and passions. They like soccer, help them in that. Get in there with them and practice with them, or help them find a place that they can practice doing that. They're going to feel confident and have a healthy self-esteem when they feel good about what they know they can do successful. Use descriptive praise. This goes with teenagers. It doesn't matter how old they are. Instead of saying, and it's okay, it's fun to be like, hey, good job, guys. You were awesome. Oh, yay, right? Those are all feel goods. But being descriptive with them takes it to the next level. And that means like, wow, my kiddo came home yesterday with 102 on their math paper. And they were like, look, look, look. And I was like, wow, you worked really hard on earning that 102. You studied those math problems a lot. You worked really hard and you gave your very best. You must feel really proud. That's so awesome. Great job. And you're studying, right? Like that is a descriptive praise. Or look, I did it. I cleaned my room. You worked really hard on cleaning your room. You did a great job on that, letting them know what they did. Helping them focus on gratitude practicing what they feel grateful about, asking around dinner time, make a routine about that, helping their mind shift into focusing on what they're grateful for is going to make them feel better. Getting them into volunteer work, self-care, model self-care. Look at what you do for self-care and model that with your kiddos. During the pandemic, we started Spa Sunday where we do each other's feet, and now it's like a family tradition. Self-care doesn't always have to look like that, but look, I've got a 17-year-old boy who does spa, Sundays with us. Like we started it back then and we kept it going. We have conversations, with having conversations with your teens. I have with mine, like, what does self-care look like for you? What do you need? How much time do you need for yourself? Schedule that out and protect that. I encourage them to, that's what's going to help them really value that so they can feel better for themselves. And then limiting the social media. That's a whole nother webinar, guys. But if you can keep them off of social media longer and have talks with them about social media and reality versus fake, and have these regular conversations with them, then you're going to have an easier time helping them make those decisions of not being on social media as much. But number one stop is not giving them access so early. It's a challenge, guys. I've got a 10-year-old who's been asking for a cell phone for 2 years in a row, and the answer is no. We'll try when you're 13. And it's hard because a lot of kids have them. But because we know what the research on how detrimental it is to their self-esteem and their mental health, the answer is no. But sometimes it's hard. It's hard to set up those limits, and I get that. Okay, we're getting close here to our last leg. We're going to go over the parenting styles briefly, a couple of emotional regulation demos, and then the Q&A. And just, then the Q&A. So you can Google and look, and they've done some really beautiful breakdowns of breaking down these 4 parenting styles into even more parenting styles. But we're going to focus on these 4 core that have been looked at for 30 plus years here. So we've got permissive parenting, authoritative parenting, the uninvolved, and the authoritarian. So the permissive parent is the whatever you want. We've got low, that permissive parenting. You might, if that's you or if you know someone, what you'll see is they have low expectations. Doesn't mean they don't believe their kid can do well, but it's more like, oh, if you don't pass school, it's fine. It's no big deal kind of thing. You're going to see fewer rules and boundaries. You're going to see that they're overindulging the children or teens. On the positive end, you're going to see that they're accepting and warm, right? But this parent's going to avoid that confrontation. This is the kind of parent that wants to be their child's friend. I see this in my sessions, but I don't want them to be mad at me. So I just want them to see me as their friend. And so that's that style of parenting. And then we have the authoritative. This is more democratic approach of let's discuss this, right? You're going to see higher expectations, clear standards and boundaries and limits. This parent is going to be assertive but warm. And flexible. They're going to be the parent that's willing to compromise and teach negotiating skills. This is the type of parent that it's okay for you to ask questions. That's, and to dialogue and not just do what you're told because they said so. So, and this parent's going to be more responsive versus reactive. They're going to be more on preventative and focus on how can I be more responsive and attuned versus waiting for crap to hit the fan and now they're in big trouble, right? And they're going to be warm. And then you have the authoritarian, and I like to say that is like the dictator parent because I said so. They have high expectations and very clear rules, but this parent is more forceful. They're more autocratic, they're rigid, their parenting discipline is going to be more punishment focused. You want the kiddo, or that parent wants that kiddo to feel the pain of what they did, right? And then there's going to be limited warmth. They're not going to be warm. There's not going to be, allowance for kiddos to ask questions. So that's that parenting style. And then you have the uninvolved, which is that I don't really care. They might be overworking too much and they just don't have the time and energy, or some of the privilege of other parents who may not be working several jobs, or maybe the parent that is just really impacted their career, and they're just not able to be as involved for whatever reason, good or bad, whatever reason, right? They're going to have competing priorities, right? They're going to be more neglectful. They're not as interested in their kid and what they're doing. They're not as available, not around as much. They're going to have fewer rules and pretty much no expectations. So parenting styles, how it influences on well-being. So that authoritative democratic parenting, the one that's like, hey, let's discuss this. That parenting style has been shown over time and time from research that those kiddos are going to develop into typically or have a higher chance of developing to well-adjusted adults with values. They're going to have a little more mental and emotional well-being. They're going to have greater child competency, more maturity and assertiveness, and self-control. They're going to feel better about themselves. They're going to have healthier self-esteem. The authoritarian, the Hitler or the dictator parent, right? You're going to see those children that have been raised in teens in that parenting style. You're going to see more rebellion, problematic in the families. Those are kiddos that you see in unfortunately, pipeline through the juvenile detention centers. They're going to be more likely to use substance abuse, just rebel completely. You're going to see more delinquency and hostility, rebelliousness, and social aggression. And we know that this parenting style is linked to higher levels of anxiety and depression. And then we have the permissive parenting or the overindulgent parenting. And so those kiddos and teens, you're going to see less personal restraint. And it's often seen in kids with ADHD, that parenting style. It does not mean you do not cause ADHD by your parenting, but it just was noted in research that there were permissive parents often with kiddos who had been diagnosed with ADHD. You're going to see less boundaries respecting, less respect of personal space. You're going to see that wild and out of control kind of behavior. Within teens, you'll see them often, they're looking for love and affection and direction from others in the world. So meaning they're attention seeking in other people. And that's a risk for them to fall into negative or unhealthy relationship patterns because they're so attention seeking. They didn't get that from the permissive parenting, right? That foundation. And then you're going to see a decrease of social competency and academic achievement may be low. The uninvolved parenting style is you're going to see an increase of depression with these kiddos and teens. You're going to see them doing more external behaviors or acting out more versus internalizing. They're doing more things that could get them in trouble, and they're taking more risks. You might see more aggressive behaviors, more behaviors that could cause, juvenile detention issues, more hostility, and then again, attention problems. So since research is leading us to show that this parenting style that is more authoritative, more democratic, this approach of, hey, let's discuss this. There's a lot of parenting books out there about gentle parenting, positive parenting, conscientious parenting, all of those parenting. I've got so many books, like I can tell you, have one core thing that I notice is being approachable, warm, firm, but gentle, helping your kids know it's okay to ask questions about what you're asking them to do and learning. There's a lot of reflected skills of the authoritative parenting styles, a common thread through these new books that we see about this gentle parenting move, right? It's not a new movement. It's been there. And it's really been foundation around the authoritative parenting style. It just said in new ways, right? So this parents, the ways that you can promote yourself to be more authoritative and more democratic, a more conscientious, gentle parent is helping your kiddos and children build negotiating and compromise skill building. Empathize with them and use reflective listening. I sent an email attachment about examples of how to use reflective, what it is, how to role play it, how to use it with your kiddos in different age groups. So you can feel free to use that. But reflective listening is just the idea of, this is a therapeutic tool I use in therapy with all populations and ages. Is like, you said something to me and I'm going to reflect back what I heard. And if I do this with my kiddo, wow, I saw that you had a sad or a mad face on, or you looked sad today when you got off the bus. Yeah, I did feel really sad. I was angry because they stole my slime at school. Wow, you were angry because they stole your slime. You felt really sad and you felt really angry. I'm not asking who did what happened. I'm just reflecting how they feel. And that really helps so much with them feeling heard, seen, supported, their self-esteem, like you're listening to them. And it helps offer more dialogue for them to say more about what happened. Teaching problem-solving skills, modeling that. I will come home from work or from wherever, and if I had a real, issue, I will talk to my kids about it in a, developmentally appropriate way and ask them for ideas. I had this situation, guys, and this is what happened, and I'm not really sure how to handle that. Could you give me some choices of what options? And we will brainstorm together and come up with options. And then we don't judge if the option's good or bad. We just write all the options down, and then we go one by one and think about, well, what would happen if I chose that choice? What could happen? And then after we've done all that, then we decide what choice we're going to make, and we do that. And then we come back and hear about it. So that's how I just gave you a strategy how to do it together as a family. But we do this with our kiddos and in session. You had something that happened at school. What happened? Identify the problem. Okay, what did you do about it? Let's say they already did it and it wasn't a good choice. They got in trouble. Let's go back and reflect. What could you have done differently? What are some new choices? And then go back. Hey, and if they didn't get in trouble and they're telling you in advance about a situation, have them come up with all those ideas. Which one are you going to try? Oh, I'm going to try this one. Cool. I can't wait to hear about how it goes. That's how you can do that. Incorporate mindfulness, meditation, use I statements, make connection activities, do family game nights, refrain from shame statements. Work, I cannot say this enough with my own parent and coaching clients and my parent clients that I work with in therapy with their children. The best gift that you can give yourself and your children is working on managing your own anxiety and stress, doing your own self-work so that it's not pouring out on them. Again, this modeling self-care and positive self-talk, I talked about these a little bit more. Discipline, asking them to be involved in the process. I asked my own kiddos, and I model this for parents in therapy sessions. Hey, you did this thing, it didn't come out well, you got in trouble. What do you think you can do so that you can learn to teach you not to do that again? What are some things that we can set up? What is something, they will come up with ideas. And they're part of the process, and you're reducing the shame. And they're going to be more likely to come and talk to you and see you as an ally, as a parent. Okay. So for time purposes, I'm just going to go a couple more minute or two so that we can have time for Q&A. And then if there isn't a whole bunch of questions, no big deal. I can dive a little bit more into these emotional regulation skills. But we've got name it to tame it. That's the idea of labeling your feelings, identifying what you feel in the moment, noticing where that feeling shows up in your body, and thinking about why you feel that way. You do this for yourself, and you can do this with your kiddos. We've got, I was like, no, I don't have one right here to show you, but I've got charts, feelings charts at home and in my office, and we do this. We have them pick a feeling, think about it, notice how you feel it in your body, and that's going to really help regulate feelings. Stinking thinking breathing. I use this for humor. We're going to let out that stinky breath of bad thoughts and not thinking positively. And we're going to breathe in good, happy thoughts, right? Or positive thoughts in, and then breathing out, right? Focusing on your breath breathing is just noticing and really on the senses of way the air goes in through your nose and comes out through your mouth. Just thinking about, what does it feel like on your tongue? How does the air feel coming through your lips? How does it feel as it's going in through your nose? Is it cold? Is it warm? What's the sensation? That's going to really calm down the body. We have butterfly tapping. which stimulates right and left brain hemispheres and brings a closer connection there. It helps process deep feelings. It helps calm down. It's a very slow tapping. And you can also do this on the knees. And then the EFT tapping, I'd be happy to send you guys a script on that one. That's emotional freedom tapping. There's a whole script and there are areas that you follow. I have a demo video as this as well. These are the tapping areas. And you say, you label how you feel, which is even though I feel stress about work, I'm doing it for an adult, stress about work, now an affirmation, I completely love and accept myself. And then we keep going through there. Now these scripts can be like 10 minutes long. I'm trained to do it with children. And so I just do a 1-minute circuit and we'll do it over and over again or not 1 minute, but like a 30-second circuit until we feel better. And once you start getting into it, you're going to see a big change. So if you want to hear more, you liked what you heard today, you guys want to hear more, please feel free to sign up to our newsletter where we'll have more webinar opportunities and just tips on for parenting and mental health wellness. And so those are our regulation skills. These are team members. We got several counselors in our Tri-Synergy. So it's some more additional information about our services, which you can find on our website, our more webinars that are coming up. And then if you can use any of these cue cards or QR codes to go into any of our social media or our websites to kind of look more and learn more. So I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording and then you guys can ask questions. So just give me one moment to do that. Just a moment. There's the recording button. Stop recording.